Well, hello everybody. This is Tim Green with the Rattle Magazine. Welcome to the Rattlecast. We're the biggest freewheeling live streaming poetry podcast on the planet, in your ears, not on your laptops. Our guest for episode number 327 today is Liz Robbins, the Rattle Chapbook Prize winner in the current issue. We'll be with her in just a few minutes, but before we should say that Rattle is a publication of the Rattle Foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit working to promote the practice of poetry. We've been in continuous publication since 1995 and are unaffiliated with any other organization. We just do all this because we love poetry. I know you do, so please do click on that like button and share. Make sure you're subscribed. Ring the bell for notifications. Leave reviews on iTunes or Spotify or Amazon Music or wherever you're watching this. That would be much appreciated. Now, as we always do, we're going to start out with our Poets Respond poem for this week. And it's a big week, unfortunately for news. A lot of sad events going on around the country in the United States, and a lot of poems coming out based on those. And we had a poem that's relevant to all that by Ying Wu, and here she is. Hey, Ying. How you doing? Hey, yeah, thanks so much for being here and for sharing this poem with us this week. It's a tough situation. So why don't you tell us how this poem came to be?
Um, Mostly just deep horror about the current events, particularly how they impact children, how how much, I guess, sort of vitriol there is between different sides of the political spectrum. And I guess really, I feel like there's a need for empathy and for understanding other people's perspectives.
Yeah, yeah. And so you took this poem as good poets respond poems often do. You took it to a really personal place. How did you find that entry point? How did you know that that's how you were going to be writing about this?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's hard, right? It's really hard to write about current events, and I really feel like to be sensitive about it, I try to write it from a personal place, like how would it be for me, and try to draw from my own lived experience, which is actually not someone I haven't had these things happen to me, but I can empathize.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, why don't we go ahead and read the poem? Do you want to read it for us?
Sure, absolutely. So, um, you know, we call it targeted operations. Because abstractions make it easier on mornings when you're running late and the lid is stuck and the toast is burnt and your child hates her pleated pinstriped poplin uniform. And in your mind, there are horizons, but hurry, now it's time to go. And in your mind, there are also borders between here and there and us and them, and people are pleading to cross those borders. But your child's still in underwear, and you haven't signed her reading log or bleached the mold behind the sink or paid the bills or packed the juice or killed the weeds beyond the patio. And the TV calls it targeted operations, but you feel your heart beating now and now and now. We're told they don't belong here, but your heart is made of spaces meant to open. And we're told our country is a nation of laws. But the ones who do the telling are the ones who speak in shadows, who call it family detention, who call it domestic terrorism, who call it crowd control, who call it law enforcement, who call it service processing. And your heart is made of petals as you rush your child down the sidewalk. The warning bell rings at 8 o'clock, then the final bell at 8:05. And your heart is veined and fluted. Your heart is made of sunrise, made of rhythm, made of ebb and flow and openings, but the gates will lock at 8:06. And you're waiting at the crosswalk, but traffic won't slow down. And families are in hiding, but cars keep rolling by, windows glinting saffron in the slanted morning sun. And the street is paved in asphalt, but you are pulse and breath and skin. You feel your child's palm in yours. And the thoughts in your mind seem paved in asphalt, but leaves keep poking through. You hear them rustle. Translucent leaves with waxy stems, the ones you walk beneath on your way to school, as your mother held your hand. And the leaves were gold with the sun inside them. You came from your mother. Your child is gold with the sun inside her. The children who came from other homelands are gold with the sun inside them. The sun contains all colors. But the Minneapolis sun is paved in asphalt, and you think you know the reason, but leaves keep poking through. We're told there's a reason, but you are pulse and breath and skin, and your child's heart once beat inside you, but the street is paved in payment plans. And voices will sneer you deserve what you get when your child's screaming terror in the driveway, and the air begins to burn your lungs, and the blood chokes in your ventricles, and you are pleading, but they crush you, and you are pleading, but your blood is tar, and you are pleading, but the street is paved in asphalt, and any minute now the bell will ring, and you'll need a pass once the gates are locked. You'll have to sign in triplicate and write your child's name and the time and date and reason why. You have to state a reason why. We were standing at the crosswalk waiting for the light to change.
Yeah, really powerful poem. Thanks so much for sharing that, Ying. It was
Thank you.
one of those weeks that we had a lot of poems on this topic, and it's the poem that makes you feel the most when you're reading them that we pull up and try to share with everybody, and that was this one this week. So I appreciate you taking the time to write it and share it with us.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, once again, that was Ying Wu with today's Poets Respond poem. If you have a poem about current events, anything that's going on right now, just send it to Rattle. Go to rattle.com. For content, you'll find Poets Respond. There's the portal to submit poems there. Do it by midnight Friday night every week, and we'll publish at least one poem on Sunday. And invite you on the Rattlecast too. And that's how to do it. Also, if you would like to get these poems by email, you don't, just go to rattle.com. At the very bottom of any page in the footer is a place to sign up for our daily poem by email. Sign up for your daily poem there. You'll have Poets Respond poems. You'll have poems like Liz Robbins' chapbook, poems from there. You'll have poems from Rattle, all sorts of poems every morning. So do sign up if you don't already. Okay, we're going to take a quick break now and go to our main guest, Liz Robbins. So sit tight and we'll be right back with a whole lot more poetry. And we're back. Thanks so much for your patience. Like I said, today's guest is Liz Robbins. Liz is winner of the 2025 Rattle Chapbook Prize for her book, Backlit, which just came out and was sent to all subscribers with the winter issue. One of the really great series of books we got this year, or last year, for the Rattle Chapbook Prize. One of the more interesting ones, too, in that there was a lot of research involved, which doesn't happen a whole bunch with poetry. She's also author of 4 previous collections, including Night Swimming, which won the 2023 Cold Mountain Press Annual Book Contest, and Play Button, which won the Cider Press Review Book Award, judged by Patricia Smith. She lives in St. Augustine, Florida, where she works as an editor as well as a poetry screener for Ploughshares. And here she is, Liz Robbins. Hey, Liz, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Tim.
Yeah, it's so great to actually meet you for the first time. It's really interesting every time we have a Chapbook Prize winner on because we work together on the books, going back and forth over email with like edits and things like that. And then, but we don't have like personal contact really. And so it's
I
always
know.
fun to say hello for the first time. So hi.
Hi. And I've been a subscriber of Rattle and, loved the work in there for years. And so, I mean, it was a special thrill to win this prize. And I mean, I have so much respect for the work you do.
Well, thanks so much. And really, like I mentioned before, it's such a thematic book. It's like so rich with the topic you're working on, which is unusual. And so it's gonna be really fun to get into that in more depth. Do you want to start out with the first poem you wanted to read, which was War?
Sure. Okay, so I'm just going to set this up a little bit. There's a reference to a painting by Picasso. It's a big collage piece called Guernica, and probably most people know it. But for those who don't know it, it was inspired by the 1937 bombing of a Basque town, the Basque town of Guernica during the Spanish Civil War. And it's basically what you need to know is it's just a big anti-war statement, and it shows the terror and pain of war. War. Jade tells me to think of it as an art. When the John walks in and starts unbuckling, to not feel the scampering heart, the hitch in the belly, but to craft a mind like night blooming jasmine tumbling down a stone wall. She says, tell yourself, this is my dance. I think of the collage I saw just before I dropped out of school, Picasso's Guernica, the mother with her dead baby in her hands, victims of a bombing, the mother's head thrown back, wailing to the sky, the wild-eyed horse grimacing, rearing back in revolt. My teacher said, the point of art is to unsettle, but the artist controls what he makes. And when the John is inside me, thrusting roughly, I am less the artist, more the mother crying out. I take money to lie, to sit astride, to ride again the horse from which I'm thrown. Jade says, no. Since the beginning, artists have made art to change public perception, but that's not their main drive. They make to escape what's real, to dive into their own minds and forget. You can lose yourself too, she says, if you try. Jade has hair she's dyed black and straightened, round eyes. I listen to her and absorb what she's saying, as if I'm not in the habit of making up my own mind. One day, I'll save enough cash to have my own studio and a vase with a long-stemmed rose and thorns. My place will be so quiet. I'll hear the faraway gallop of a horse as it flees across the valley, the wish of a brush on canvas, the cry of a baby.
Yeah, that was War, again, from Backlit by Liz Robbins. So Liz, I'm really curious just how this book came to happen. You know, how did you get, in your note, you say that your research lately has been about power and the way that affects relationships. And of course, this relationship with sex workers is something fraught with power in that way. So how did you lean into that topic as a topic to be writing poems about?
Well, I think I just, and some of it might be the political theater we're all experiencing. I've also experienced obviously hierarchies in work situations, family situations, friend situations. And so I kind of started there, wanting to understand the dynamics of that, how power works. And so reading some sociological studies about that and research about that. Um, And then and also then going down a rabbit hole with psychology and how power affects people. And then that led to gender and class research, where I was just looking at how different groups are impacted by power differentials and things like that. So it seemed to me that sex workers offered a really interesting group. That was a really interesting group to see how this all plays out. And one reason in particular is because I consider myself a feminist, and feminists have all different kinds of positions when it comes, pardon the expression, when it comes to sex workers. There are some who are sex positive, really, really look at it as a thing that is, something that where we need to focus on the Johns more and rest with the Johns, and that it's the problem is the stigma that they experience. And then you have all the way on the other side, more kind of traditional feminists who would say that it's something that, because it's part of the patriarchy that our country was founded on, that it can't really ever be divorced from that. And so any kind of choice within that is going to be constrained choice. So anyway, as you can hear, like there was all kinds of interesting research out there. And so I was interested in that part of it. But then I also read a lot of memoirs, first person accounts. I interviewed a sex worker. And what I learned from that interaction, I mean, the thing that was most surprising was that I mean, her entire working life was sex work. And then she married one of her Johns, and they're happily married, and the what she revealed to me was that violence only happened to her maybe once or twice, which was surprising to me. I mean, I think I assumed it was more of a consistent thing. But so just the ordinariness of her work, as far as she was concerned, was a surprising thing I learned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it is. It's a really interesting topic, and this is saying that it's the oldest profession, and yet it lives in such a moral, ambiguous area. Really, I don't know what my own opinions are even about it. I mean, on the one hand, freedom and autonomy to make your own choices is really important, but on the other, exploitation is a real problem and happens obviously too, and there's all the dangers involved as well. And so, I don't know. I don't even know where to stand. So it's such a great topic for a book of poems. Did your positions or feelings about it change and evolve as you were working on the research for this project?
I think yes. I mean, I think I originally maybe would have leaned slightly more in the direction of sort of a sex positive feminist. And then after reading how consistent the negative effects of sex work are, I mean, and across the spectrum, I mean, whether we're talking about exotic dancers or prostitutes or what have you, it's pretty dire as far as what kind of what potentially can happen with mental health, physical health. The stigma is lasting. It's difficult. Like, one of the things I learned, this was something I had never thought about, but like once you are in the life, it's hard to make friends with anyone outside the life. And that actually worked its way into one of the poems. people inevitably are going to ask you what you do. And like you said, like there's a lingering stigma that complicates the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Well, it is. It's such a complicated and fascinating topic. Do you want to read another poem?
Sure. Why don't I read The Desperate Attract the Using? And this has an epigraph from Simone de Beauvoir. And the epigraph reads, "The prostitute is a scapegoat. Man vents his turpitude upon her, and he rejects her. The Johns come to me, desperate for fun, a bit frantic with the naughty thrill of breaking the law and maybe my spirit. In disguise, in a black dress and lipstick, thong underwear I'd never wear alone. I open my body, driven toward money, desperate to survive like any wild animal. The Johns read me as eager for love, as that's the advertising, the song I sing, they pay for. I play scapegoat for the Johns, for the whole city. Haunted families pick the weak to carry shame. The friends I keep are few. I live downtown, far inside the brick walls, far outside the garden communities. When I sit beside the laundromat's purring machines, I prop up a book I don't read, so I don't have to engage. All exchanges lead to, so what do you do? Faces open with curiosity, tinged with disgust. I'm too eager for closeness, desperation cinched to my frame like a trench coat. A human problem is too much wanting. We're wired for discontent. For how else do we progress? Someday I'll become a librarian, keeping myself hidden, finding a place within stacks of books. Knowledge like scripture. Libraries offering sanctuary like the churches of old. My footfalls in the stone aisles like anyone's, like everyone's, echoing for a brief time, then gone.
Yeah, that was the desperate act, or the desperate attract the using, from Backlit. Yeah. So I'm curious more about the research that went into this. And you mentioned you interviewed somebody, and doing that is always something I kind of wish poets would do more of. I remember when Virginia Quarterly Review, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, started having like poet correspondence for a while, where they were sending poets out to different places to like interview people and write poems based on it. And I always thought that was such a cool idea. And I wish we had a bigger budget at Rattle so we could do that. But
oh, you should do it. I love it. I love it.
Well, we had a new donation button on the top. So if anybody wants to give us a cool $1 million, we'll send people all around the world to write poems. Yeah. But yeah, so how did you approach, actually interviewing someone for poetry? It's just not something that you hear very often. And I do, as much as I wish that it would happen more often, it's something I've also never done. So I'm just as guilty of sitting in my own little couch writing my own poems. But how did you go about finding someone to interview and approach them for it?
Well, I'll tell you, it turned out to be very easy for me because my neighbor is married, his wife, her childhood best friend was this woman. And so it was sort of a friend of a friend deal. And she was willing to talk to me. And so it just sort of unfolded from there. That was pretty easy. But I will tell you that one of my research sources was from a woman I know who wrote her thesis on exotic dancers. And she got her master's degree at Portland State University. And so I read her thesis and talked with her at length about her experience interviewing those women. And, and it was probably 10 or 12 dancers that she talked to. And she encountered real difficulties, especially at first, because, essentially she's this, woman with a clipboard coming and wanting to pick the brains of, and I mean, I think I definitely understand why that might be met with a little bit of distrust or defensiveness or something like that. But she got them to talk to her, and but it is, especially with subject matter like this, there's you definitely want to approach it from a place of empathy and openness and generosity, and so that's part of the deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a YouTube channel that I watched years ago for a while called Soft White Underbelly that was fascinating. Is somebody went and interviewed people like down, in the most difficult parts of society. And it was just fascinating the way that he got people to open up. And it's really, there's so many avenues for poetry to explore that we kind of don't, locked into the models that we do. So it was really fun to come across this book that was doing something different.
Thanks.
Yeah. Let's do another poem, and then I'll ask another question. So next up was family.
Okay. Family. Pimp Mike tells us girls again, we're like a close family. I think we're more like a band of secrets that relates by mere proximity, a hostel that takes care of each other like unsolvable problems. We drown out the whispers, the crying, like a stone wall blocks the sea wind, a wall left with slits and dings and hollows. With barbs, we slice each other's hearts. The Greeks called it sarcasm, a tearing of the flesh. We say it's to keep us all tough, a boon to our business. But some of us secretly like to give or receive pain, what we learned early. I'm Angela, the white rock, the bright hard queen, Pimp Mike's most righteous hand. I send the youngest of us out into the night to find new caves to mine. Because why not? Why should she be exempt from the work most wet, most dark, most deep? I've done it all my life, exiling Christy, my sister, myself, from home. And when she comes back that first night, there's no power like mine, her cash limp in my hand, and I imagine I can taste the salt on her thighs, her cheeks.
And that was Family again from Backlit by Liz Robbins. There's a question, and I want to ask this too, so it's perfect. Thomas Mixon wanted to know what made you want to put these poems in first person as opposed to something else? Because you could have really easily, done the poem from a distance and not from that first person speaker where they're persona poems. So why that choice?
Well, I think I usually write from first person. And so that's a real comfort place for me, just to start from. But I also really wanted the poems to feel intimate. And, it seems to me like it is. Sex work is body work. I mean, that's primarily what it is. There's that in this collection, but the emotional element was more important to me, and I really wanted to try to tap into that, and it seemed like first person was going to be the best way to do that.
Yeah. And did you find any difficulties in that because we did a Persona Poems issue 63, I think it was, and a lot of people were talking in the notes too about how nerve-wracking it is in sort of the contemporary day to write in persona, because it's not your lived experience. You're speaking for somebody else. And do you have the authority to do that? And, there's a whole bunch of sort of fraught things with, modern concerns. Was that something that you had difficulty with, or did you find a path through that pretty easily?
Well, I did find a path, but it was fraught. I mean, I really wondered whether, the whole time I was making it, whether, I had those same questions. And I ultimately just came down on the side of feeling like the collection was informed by research, but the emotional piece was filtered through. Now, I haven't lived their experience, but I have felt some of these really difficult emotions, and so that part felt like there was a degree of that I could write to and speak to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, for me, it's another thing that I just wish. I don't like poets holding back, and poems are this amazing magical empathy machine that where we get into somebody's, for me to read your poem, like you're inhabiting my body and I'm like becoming you in this weird way. And then, to do that for other people, and it's all about voice, and to bring another voice in that's not you is a magical, fascinating thing. And then of course we're all layers of consciousness too. So we have all these like different people inside us that can speak. And it's just
That's so true. Yeah.
There's just such a richness to being human that involves imagining what it's like for other people in like an authentic way. And that's why we did a Persona Poems issue. Like, I just don't want that to be stifled. I think it's something we should all explore. So to me, I wish people wouldn't be so afraid of it, even though it is like you can step on some minefields, and did you do anything to sort of test that and make sure you weren't sort of going too far?
Well, I can't really know that. That's kind of going to be up to readers, but I just wanted to add something to what you were saying, which is I'm 54, and I have previous books that I've written, previous poems, and I'm at a different place in my life. To be honest, I'm kind of tired of looking at me just following my own attention, if you will. And so, and I think some of it has to do with starting to pay attention more to things outside myself, how I'm going to leave the world, how I want to leave the world, what kinds of social issues are pressing to me that I want to draw attention to. And so, I like my next project that I'm working on is I'm using personas again, and looking at homelessness. I volunteer at St. Vincent de Paul, where we redistribute food to the homeless. And so I work with them, all the time. And it's that's just where my attention is going more. And so that's just where my poems want to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, let's hear another one. Element of Conflict is up next.
Okay. Element of Conflict. Each night I walk Phillips Highway in a tiny denim skirt. I sway in my high shoes. Many times an hour I smoke, sometimes rock in a glass pipe. Tell me, do I feel dread or relief when the unwashed truck cruises to a halt? Is it just me, or me against men? Does sundown ask to find a bed I can use? Wet bills, counted twice, stuffed in a bag beside the mace. This car pulling over, that one, glint of a knife, edge of a fist. Tell me, is it just me, or me against nature. As I walk Phillips Highway past dusk, under hidden stars, terror dreaming of bread and danger in not so distant rooms, terror dreaming as if in prayer, trapped in delusion's cuffs. Tell me, is it really me? Me against me?
And that was Element of Conflict from Backlit by Liz Robbins. It's going to be actually the poem of the day tomorrow on Rattle.com. I just set that up last night, decided to run with it.
All right.
Yeah. So there's a question from Terry Jude Miller, and this is something I was just about to ask too. So we'll put it in his words. He says, was it difficult to not inject your social perspective when you interviewed the call girl? Because, to me, it's a similar problem with Poets Respond, where you have so many thoughts and feelings about the content, and it's really easy to get sort of preachy and have like a moral position. And the wonderful thing about this book is that you explore the topic without taking those, positions, without like judging in a way. It's sort of seeking and searching for how you feel rather than, saying like this is right and this is wrong and here are the moral, framework that we should have, which is what I think the temptation is in anything that's like social and political. So how did you, was it difficult not to inject that perspective, I guess is how Terry put it.
Yeah. Well, I guess it wasn't difficult. I mean, I think Chekhov has a quote about art saying that, the work of art doesn't have to solve a problem. It just has to formulate it correctly. It just has to frame it. And so, it's just sort of showing a situation and then allowing the reader or the viewer to draw their own conclusions and also, if they're going to try to solve a problem, then that's their journey to try to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm wondering too how, because there's the Pimp Mike character and there's that recurs throughout the book, and there's the speaker, which feels cohesive as a character. How did you go about like building character? There are amalgams of people that, you've read about or interviewed. And, was it similar to writing a novel and in the like characters sort of emerge and start to speak for themselves, which is something I talk to novelists and it's, I don't know how that happens, but they say it does.
Yeah. No, I mean, I mean, Pimp Mike, I needed a single character that would keep threading through, but not too often. And so Pimp Mike kind of served that purpose. I wanted him to have like a stable of girls but the girls are all speaking and because the many of the poems are titled just sex worker, it may be the same voice, it may not, it may be different voices and not really knowing is part of the point about how maybe in some ways Pimp Mike is treating them or working with them. And I don't know, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it definitely does. It's too. There's so much sort of structure in play that they're concepts like that, like ideas where Pimp Mike is the one character that we name, and it is fascinating the way you put that it's sort of ambiguous who the I is, and it drifting in between different voices because there is a sort of nameless quality and how much like of the structure of the book, what was the writing process like, I guess is what I'm asking. Did you know you were going in these directions, or was it like one poem at a time and then you put it together? I'm curious about that too.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely, especially in the beginning, just writing around the subject matter and seeing what came out. And then once maybe a third or half of the book was written, then I started to write pieces that were a little bit more purposeful in filling in different things. But the structure of it, I mean, like I have the poems in the that have the unusual spacing, like a little TV. Um, where there's a whole lot of white space and the the effect of it is very halting. I mean, it looks like groups of words walking across the page. But that halting feel really felt appropriate to the mood of the book. And so I wanted to have a number of poems that worked that way.
Yeah, I know we weren't planning on reading that poem, but do you want to read that just to give a sense? Because there is the variety of the styles of poems too, and the way that you pull form in ways that add to the story really work well. And I think it'd be good to hear one of those. Do you want to read a little TV?
Sure.
It's on page 14 if you have to flip to it.
Okay, good. A little TV. A little TV sits by my bed, about to die, hanging on. I steal cable from next door. Pimp Mike knows how to splice. Before the life, I believed how they show call girls on TV. The red gowns, wine, big operas, or street girls in shorts, hopped up on meth. I spend more minutes on beds with men than you'd imagine. It's not as bad as you think. The plain work boots, rough knuckles, simple, mealy smell of worn underpants. It's worse than you think. The time between when I'm left with thoughts gone, the wild, blank field dug out, a bit more by each trick. I blot the graphics with TV, fill the minutes with shows. I am the show. I'm watching, zoned out, in heels, white undies, sliding open a drawer. There's a man speaking with 20s, condoms, lube, a little blow. This is what I do. I watch, I connect, and I can't turn down the sound. I can't shut off the show.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great ending too to that halting pace. A little TV, again from Backlit. So I wonder how much was the writing of this like your past books too. We're gonna look at some poems from past books. But playing with different styles and forms like that, is that something that you've always done, or was this new to this book?
I think when I think of my previous collections, I'm thinking of like Freaked, for instance. I have clusters of poems in there that are related by theme. And so sort of writing in one direction, at least for a while, came naturally to me. But I hadn't really attempted writing an entire book that was all one theme. And I actually have a full length group of these poems also. And that is its own challenge. If anyone who's written a themed book like that, trying to find ways to keep it fresh and different, to keep the energy going as you're circling similar characters or similar themes, is definitely challenging.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's finish out this book with the short poem "Clean" that's at the end, and then
Okay.
we'll move on to look at some other stuff too.
Clean. I take hot baths, one after each John, 5 or 6 a day, though we're not supposed to waste water. When Pimp Mike gets on my case, shoving a bill in my face and adding on extra men, I switch to whores' baths, filling the sink with water and lemon soap, wetting the cloth. I wipe all over, then again in the secret, moist places. I love you, sings the water. I love you, sings the cloth. And I am very young, almost embryonic. The water, my father, the cloth, my mother, touching me pristine, and in places a tender feeling is not so strange.
Yeah, so that was Clean from Backlit. And we'll do one more question because this is from Laura Berg. Sorry, she says, did you feel that you were writing for sex workers, for yourself, to educate, to experience, giving voice? Curious about where you locate yourself within these powerful poems.
Um, hmm. That's tough. I want to say yes to all of that. I mean, I I don't think I was primarily you know, I would like for there to be an educational element to it. Especially, with regard to just sort of paying attention to groups in our communities and in society that um, are suffering at times, are suffering and need help. I mean, that's important. But I do think that, like, I was trying to use my own emotional um capacities to channel these
Mm-hmm.
poems.
Yeah, yeah. Well said, and that makes sense. So those are poems from Backlit. And I'll hold it up one more time. Backlit. If you can buy it from Rattle.com, of course, right now. And if you subscribe in the next 3 weeks or so, you'll get it too with your first issue. Then we move on to the spring. So just subscribe if you're not a subscriber yet. You get that book in the mail along with our winter issue. And you have some poems from previous collections too. Which I didn't have a chance to read the actual collections. I just had these little snippets. So what can you tell us about the last one, Fire Carousel, which came up from Main Street Rag a couple years ago?
Yeah, I'm really proud of this book. It's a collaboration with some very gifted poets, Virginia Chase Sutton, Lauren Tivy, and Aria Johnson. And we conceived of this collection as we each decided to take a mental health issue and write poems toward that issue. And we each had experienced those mental health issues, and so um, and then the photographer Nicole Tucker took some really beautiful photographs that went along with our poems, and so yeah, I think it turned out really well. I'm really proud of it.
Yeah. Well, so the poem we have here is Sad. Do you want to read that?
Sure. Okay, so my mental health issue that I wrote, the poems that I wrote, there are 5 poems, are all around depression. Sad. The lime tree sits in a little clay pot. On the tips of its limbs, tiny globes, green as envy. The pot sits at the edge of the yard, mostly out of sight. When I come across it, it's been days. The soil too dry, fruit the same size as before. To assist requires walking back to the house, finding a jug, filling it with water, walking back, slowly pouring to the depths, walking back and forth 3 or 4 times. This process I'll do, but probably not often enough. I'm thinking, I don't need a slice of lime for my gin. I worry a lot about my choosing. What I can't see are roots growing down, touching walls, having nowhere to curl but in. I don't think to yank up, dig a hole, find a new home. I think how little I need limes, how much work, the evidence of my nurturing.
Yeah, and that was sad from Fire Carousel. And it feels like you're really exploring and reaching out in different directions as a poet, with the theme in Backlit and then working collaboratively with Fire Carousel. What did you learn in that process of being part of a bigger collaboration? That's another thing that poets don't do a whole lot of.
Well, I have to give a lot of credit to Lauren Tibby, a very gifted poet. She's my friend also. She's just a force of nature, and she really spearheaded the project and rounded us all up. And she was the one who put it all together and everything else. But I have to say, until this project, like I was a lone ranger, not really working collaboratively, but I really, really enjoyed it. And, it's not like we were collaborating, like we were co-writing the poems. Like, I think that's a whole different animal. I'd be really excited to try that with, some poets at some point. But in this case, it was having group conversations, talking about, what we wanted in the book to look like, what we wanted, how many poems, how our themes were going to manifest. Certainly, proofreading each other's poems and giving feedback and workshopping, and it was just a really rich environment and very rewarding ultimately. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, well, we should try all these things, I think. Let's read Astray next.
Okay. Astray. How better to show myself a privileged woman than here at a deserted public park where I sit on a Thursday? The cat's white with black spots. I've bought a tin of sardines at the Circle K. I meow at her. She meows back. We go pitifully back and forth, me pointing to the tin, her darting off when I get within 10 feet. She crawls under a portable john to avoid me. Eventually, I get in my car and park within view, her thin body now crouched among the limbs of a sycamore. If I worry that she's stuck, it's more likely I am, that this weight is proof of a blue, confused mind, the river I swim in, a river forged early that flows across the county. The problem is not that I've offered the tin. It's that I can't just leave it and go, that I need the reward. If I have chores to do, milk to buy, a shirt to return, instead, I wait in hopes of the descent, her arms hugging the tree trunk, smell of dead fish filling my car. The problem is I'll wait till the sun turns pink, goes low under the chains of the abandoned swings. So great the want for proof of my goodness. And it's only in the dark, only in my head, that she trusts, eats from my hand.
And that was Astray from Fire Carousel. I should say, if you haven't yet, please do click the like button. It's always helpful to click the like button. That makes the show be spread to more people later. And there's always more people watching than have clicked like, so make sure you remedy that by doing it right now. Also, if you have any questions for Liz, I know a lot of people have asked questions already, but you can find the YouTube. It helps if you put question in bold. I can try to pass any along as we go. But Liz, I wanted to ask about... you had an album of poetry recordings, which is a really interesting thing too. Another thing sort of outside the box for poets. And another thing I've wondered about if we should be doing more of. So what can you tell us about your experience with that, about making like an album of spoken word rather than a book?
Well, again, I was very fortunate to get the opportunity from a real um, big force of nature, and this is Mark Ari, who directs the creative writing program at the University of North Florida in Jacksonville, which is also where I got my master's degree. I think I had published maybe my second book, and he reached out to me and said, I'm doing this program and I'm recording poets, and I would love it if you wanted to put some poems together and we'll make an album and we can sell it and that kind of thing." And I thought it sounded super fun. And um, my friend Sarah Pedigo, actually, who did the cover for Backlit, she did the cover of the album also. And so it was just a really good experience. And I think, having to really work to have your poems showcased in that way, in an auditory way, is a good experience for poets. I mean, it's something when we give readings, that's a time that we have to work on that more. But it's having a permanent recording of your work is a different challenge. And I don't know. It was a good challenge. I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's Picked Strings. If you just type in Liz Robbins, Picked Strings into Google, you can find it. It's here at eat-magazine.bandcamp.com is the link I had what I was showing on the screen. But it is, audiobooks are such a big, part of reading nowadays, the reading experience. So many people listen because you can do it in found time, and poetry is like an oral tradition. And so it seems one of the things, I don't know why more poets don't have audio versions of their books, like albums, and so it's really cool to see this. What was it like trying to sort of promote it? I mean, maybe that's the one thing that's difficult, is that there's no like channel, how to like do a reading and like, try to get a book review and post on social media for books, but then it's a little different for an album. So what was your experience on that end of it? Did it feel like it's like a commercial thing that we should be able to do more of, or was it like a challenge to get it out?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was really a challenge. I think Mark was really the one who was doing a lot of work that direction. Give him a lot of credit for that. It did there aren't as many natural avenues. Like, I mean, there's like if a collection is on Amazon or something, you can point people to that, place where everybody knows. I mean, it's harder now, and I think this was maybe even before social media, or social media was just starting to come about. And so, it was definitely more of a challenge then than it is now, I would say, in terms of promoting.
Yeah. Did it change the way you think about writing at all, having that recording experience? Like, did you think more of the sounds of poems as a result of that?
Well, I try to pay attention to sound. I mean, I write in free verse largely, but I I grew up in choirs and singing choirs in my church, and my parents are both musicians, and so I try to pay attention to my ear when I compose poems, and maybe everybody does that. But I think the oral quality is an important piece and should be paid attention to.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, definitely. And I do. I think we just should be doing more in that as poets too. Um, uh, so let's close out with the last like 15 minutes and highlight two of your other past books. So we have, and I recognize this poem because it's from Rattle, Drive-In Church, which is from
Yes.
Freaked. So what can you tell us about the book Freaked? As your elevator pitch in one poem you've got here. What was Freaked about? How was that
Oh
designed?
my gosh. It's kind of it's wild. I have a group of poems in here that what was the name of that column? Oh, News of the Weird. The Folio magazine, which was a free magazine that you could get around town, had this column called News of the Weird. And it would just be a collection from the AP wire of different things that odd things that came across, usually, the police's records and that kind of stuff, news records. And so I took a whole bunch of those and wrote poems around them. And I inserted the little blurb as the epigraph. And that was a foray into using personas because I was using the characters that were in the News of the Weird. I have a group of poems in here that all are working with the horoscope. I have a sonnet crown that is working with the photographs of Diane Arbus, a great 1970s black and white photographer. So it's a real genre mashup.
That's really interesting. And how did you decide to put it together in the format that it was? It sounds like it's a really eclectic mix of things.
Well, it was really just at the time where my attention was going. And the poems, as I'm lying them out and looking at all the stuff I have, and I have these, it's broken into maybe 5 different sections. And thematically, the groups, they're either very purposefully written together or they are somewhat similar in theme. And I started to see that there were overlaps between the sections. And so I thought, oh, okay, maybe I've got a book here.
Well, that's interesting. Let's hear that poem, Drive-In Church.
Okay. Drive-In Church. My mother wakes early every Sunday, pulls on black hose even in June, and drives 40 minutes to put on a choir robe and sing in a crowd for a crowd. Such is the nature of her faith. Mine was held for too many years, thrashing underwater, burbling, silent screaming for air. My faith may be, however, growing toward that church in Daytona Beach, where you don't even have to get out your car, and therefore your pajamas. Just tool right up with your cigs on the dash and a 12-pack of Krispy Kremes, reggae on the tape deck, where you can snooze mid-sermon, curl up with a blanket and nobody would see. With only your license plate showing, you'd still get credit for going. That's what I mean. It's all about the Redeemer card for me, where 999 church visits means a trip to heaven is free. My mother says, it's not for God you go, for you. But I'm still that teen in black eyeliner and dress, scowling in the back pew, stinking of last night's beer, wondering what's in it for me, which doesn't add up if my mother's to be believed. Here's what I think. One day I'll die, and maybe it will be true. My mother wearing wings, drinking martinis, laughing in the golden sun behind a big locked gate. And I'll be staring in, feeling sorry and alone, yet knowing I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. And my mother says, how is that unlike now and how you felt your whole life? Maybe if you'd go to church, you'd feel different. And I say, doesn't someone have to be the crazy, the heathen? What if everyone went to church? She sighs, oh, if I know God, he'd just find another way to up the ante. To which I think, the next time I go looking in the paper for drive-in times, it'll be to see what film's playing. But she knows I'm listening.
And that is Drive-In Church from Freaked by Liz Robbins. Usually I ask this earlier on in the show, but I'm always curious about how poets came to be poets. Do you remember like the first time you read a poem that sort of knocked your socks off and made you want to do that too?
I do. So I was in sixth grade and I was in English class and this is going back a ways. So this I had a teacher, Mrs. Ellen Millar, put a poem on the chalkboard and it was In Just Spring by E. E. Cummings. And it's a short, very sweet, playful poem about two little girls outside enjoying springtime. And it's all over the page in lowercase and invented words. Like he has the word mud luscious in there. And I was a sixth grader and I'd never seen a poem act like that before. And I had no idea you could do things like that. And it really just stuck with me. And Mrs. Millar was such a great teacher too. She had us all write poems and then we put them together in a magazine and she had us do illustrations for it. And then she mimeographed it all and gave it to our parents. And so, I mean, the whole experience was really good. And that got me going. And it ebbed and flowed for a while. It really stuck again in college, I would say. But that early experience never left me.
Yeah. And was there a moment where you wrote a poem that knocked your own socks off? Like that you realized, this is something there's this like wow moment where you kind of like catch something. We were talking about with Billy Collins last week. He had a poem where he found his voice finally. And he was like, this is the thing that I have to contribute, which is that, seriously funny, serious thing. Did you have a moment where you wrote a poem that, maybe it was in college or earlier, where you surprised yourself and knew that you were excited by what you could do yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say it would be more true to say that I getting validation from outside myself was more a moment where I took it more seriously. Like it was easier for me to find what was wrong with the poems that I was writing. So getting external validation when I was younger was the thing that helped me. It helped encourage me. But I remember, so I was at the College of Charleston and I was in it was like an intro to poetry workshop. And I was definitely not the best poet in the class. I mean, I can remember the two people who I was just starstruck by who were so good. And Paul Allen was my teacher, and he had us all submit poems that we had written in class to the literary journal. And, we just all kind of did it. And I remember coming into class the next day, and the guy who sat behind me said, "Congratulations." And I said, "For what?" And he said, you won the poetry prize that for the literary journal." And I was completely blown away and really excited. And it kind of made me see myself in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's really cool. Both those stories are great. Thanks for sharing them.
Sure.
Let's close out with a poem from your first book, which is a book I have actually, and it's such a memorable title. I love Hope as the World is a Scorpion Fish. So read Etude for My Father, but tell us a little bit about the book too before you do.
Oh, my juvenilia. And I mean, I wasn't that young when I wrote it, but when I look back on these poems, a lot of them I'm like, oh my. But so yeah, there was a lot of working out my teenage angst in these poems, even though I was a little bit older by the time I got around to it. Um, but I one of the things I'm proud of and I guess a lot of first collections have sonnets and villanelles and things like that. But that's one thing I like seeing when I return to this book is that I was doing a lot of work in the more formal modes, and I think that was good for me, and I was glad that I was encouraged to try those things. So this is Etude for My Father. She looked for a moment alive, the dead bird I saw once while running, her lifeless wing saluting the sun from the ground, a flag in the wind. But the intricate bones were crushed, the trickle of blood dried to brown. My whole body clutched at the thought of her call, low-pitched, silenced, minutes after some large darkness bore down. It took me hours to forget, days before I'd turned down the glistening, tree-lined street, distancing myself again the wrong way, not out of acceptance, the patient parent of love, but out of fear. My father lying in a hospital bed in LA, his call a delicate timbre in my bones, asking me to come, accepting when I would not. "I'll wait for you here," was my shadowy reply, as some stronger attendant tightened down the corners of his bed, the sky.
And that was a tune from my father, from Hope as the World is a Scorpion Fish. Liz, thanks so much for joining us and talking and sharing, both Backlit and then some from your older books too. It's really been a pleasure to get to know you better and see your process. And I think inspiring too for all the different ways you approach poetry. So thanks for doing that and for being here.
Thank you so much. It was really fun.
Yeah, great. So once again, that was Liz Robbins. You can find her book, like I said, Backlit. The Rattle Chapbook Prize winner came with the winter issue. If you subscribe in the next 3 weeks or so before they send the next issue to the printer, we will include that along with the winter issue. So make sure you subscribe if you don't. That's the cheapest and easiest way to do it. So $30 a year, and you get 4 chapbooks and 4 issues of Rattle. Hard to beat that. Find all of Liz's work, though, at her website, lizrobbins.net. That's LIZROBBINS.net, lizrobbins.net. Find her books there. Check them all out. And, of course, check out Backlit, too. Now, we're going to take a quick break and go to our prompt lines. And the prompt for this week was to write a poem about a time something was put somewhere that it didn't belong. Include an unusual detail about the person that found it. So in our new format now, it's the invited prompt lines. You had to submit your poems by Sunday night, by last night. Katie emailed about 10 or 11 people this morning. We're trying to balance it for time, get a lot of diversity between like the styles and the responses and different people every week. So that's what Katie's working on. And she's invited you. If you were invited, join the Zoom right now. You have the link. If not, submit your poems next week for sure. We'll try to mix it up and keep a lot of variety in what we get to share. But the prompt lines are coming up, so sit tight and we'll be right back with a whole lot more poetry. And we're back. Thanks for your patience. We've got our creative editor, prompt lines editor, and my wife, Katie Dozier, here beside us with some prompt goodness. Hi, Katie. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I really enjoyed that interview. It was wonderful to get to hear a little behind the scenes on how Liz put that chapbook together, because it was so exciting. I still remember when I got to read it for the first time, and it was like, wow, there's so much thought and so much empathy in this. So
Yeah, it definitely was. And I was really looking forward to this interview because I didn't know how it's so rare to have a book that has that much research and background into it. So, it was really cool. So for the prompt lines, you've invited the invited prompt lines. You've invited folks up. We've got a roster here of great poets about to share poems, but there's some stuff we wanted to talk about, some house cleaning to do.
Yes.
So what do you want to say, Katie?
I just wanted to note, so it is almost the end of the month. And so by the end of the month, you want to go ahead and get in any prompt poems that you want to be considered for publication. So make sure to do that. And then also for added fun, there's going to be a really short turnaround, because the end of the month, I believe, is on Saturday.
Sunday.
Yeah.
No, wait, Saturday? No. No, it's Sunday. Yeah.
Oh, God, that's the worst possible
It is.
way.
It's the worst timing.
Okay. So anyway, there's not going to be much time between when I can send out the declines and the happy acceptance, and then when we reopen the category to choose who will be on the invited prompt lines a week from today.
Yeah. So sometime like maybe late afternoon, we'll have that category open again. So for the new prompt coming up, submit your poems Sunday night, but that's like the window you've got, like maybe 8 hours. So make sure.
I really wish there was an easier way to explain all of this. I've tried, I've written it down, but let's help each other out.
Yeah. I mean, believe it or not, this is the simplest way, because we could have had like multiple prompt categories on Submittable.
The thing that might be a little confusing though is that we cannot open a new category until this one has closed. It will screw everything up. It's too difficult to explain, but that's why it has to be like that.
Yeah.
So
true.
thank you.
Anyway.
And so we've got some really fun takes and really interesting takes on the prompt tonight to hear from everybody.
Well,
So
I'm excited. It was a lot of fun last week, and I'm looking forward to all the poems. But first, we have your poem, which I'm also excited to hear. So what did you do with yours? And the prompt, once again, was to write a poem about a time something was put somewhere that it didn't belong, and include an unusual detail about the person that found it. Okay, so where'd you go with it?
So I'm continuing on in I apparently only write villanelles kick.
Okay.
And I only write about snails and only villanelles. That's not too niche, right?
Snail
That's a
villanelles?
very
Well, you
broad
could have a very
audience.
thematic
The same
chapbook.
appeal as the dog poems, dog show book. Okay.
Exactly.
The glass snail.
Okay. Oop. That was my
That was our glass
a sneak
kombucha.
peek of my kombucha. Okay. And here, let's see. Okay.
That day it was put somewhere it didn't belong. Moving day, but how could it have crawled away? Curiosity is the whirl of questions song. I thought I packed the trinket in a hat box. Wrong. Old tissue paper becomes the new waves of today. Recall that day I was put somewhere I didn't belong. Lightning on the beach, red flags blazing, a throng of people huddled under a lifeguard's chair to pray, and curiosity is the wind beneath a question song. It's how the seagulls fly along. I was unsafe for so long. It turned my heart translucent, a pink shrimp, prey. That same day, I put it somewhere it didn't belong. I pressed my old locket deep into his cold prongs. He hadn't even asked for it. There was no ballet. Curiosity unfurled without a question song. But music crawled back in, key by key, then strong. Someone was turning my music box back on. Away to today, I put myself where I've always belonged, where curiosity's swirl is answered by another song.
Yeah, I love that refrain with the curiosity swirl.
I think I skipped a stanza.
Yes.
Didn't I? Because this is the thing. So usually I read from my phone because my contacts aren't actually, I'm too cheap to renew it, and I don't actually have the right prescription, so I wear glasses a lot. But so Tim's moved it, and I was like, whoa, and so I think I skipped a stanza, but that's cool too.
Well, I thought it was great, and sorry, Katie. I was trying to only scroll during
It's not
stops.
you, it's me. Okay, it's my issue.
Okay. You know what you could do is you could have just an extra long arm to reach the mouse.
Stretch Armstrong. Okay, sorry. Okay, so what'd you come up with?
Okay, so I went back to my the book project I'm working on with some alliterative verse sonnets or whatever, and this is the one where I went, extension cord. We found your father's leather billfold waiting in the well of his microwave, like a fat fillet of frozen steak on the turntable's textured glass. All of it gleamed in the gold glow of the cavity lamp, the chrome so clean it made a mirror of our field man's face. Your father was always fastidious. First to rise, he'd remove the dew with a rag if he could. So why the wallet? What did it mean to cage his credit cards in a Faraday? Was he afraid of being followed, his travels tracked by the tether of a chip? A single start and sparks would spray, melting most of it under a minute, burning the bills, bursting photos into flame. You feel a pull to follow through, to plug it in and press play. There you go. That is Extension Cord, another poem that will maybe as a collection it'll all make sense, but I enjoy writing them.
Well, that's great. I love listening to you read them. So.
Well, thank you. So let's see. So that is that is our poems. Let's see what everybody else has.
Great.
And we'll start out with none other than Christiana Doucette.
Well, actually, we start with Dick Westheimer.
Oh, wait, we start with Dick Westheimer. See, I knew.
Sorry, Christiana, this came off so bad, but we have to hear from Dick Westheimer because we really want to know how the first community reading went.
We do. Good point.
Hi, Dick.
And her sort of introductory deconstruction of a rattle poem, of her favorite rattle poem. And then the poets were they were great. And there were a number of new folks who I'd never seen before. And even though I have sort of this face blindness where I might not known if I've never seen them before, we did check in with folks. And they just had great work, and people adapted to the technology, and they were really supportive of each other. But the poems the people, of course, were worthy of being supported, but the poems were too. It was good fun. And, folks were respectful of the 3 minutes. You've trained them well. And it felt good. And there have been a lot of positive comments that people have had about the community. And that's, community is the top of the list, about the community at the community read. Just things like you'd expect, like everybody was so nice. Which makes me sort of cringe a little bit about their other poetry readings they go to.
People are mean, yeah. Well, definitely.
But it was great. It just felt like it, and I think that your sense that maybe some folks are a little bit intimidated. Folks are intimidated to read anyway sometimes for their first time. But I think some folks felt freer to read on a non-recorded line without, you guys.
I'm perfectly happy to know where I'm not wanted, but to extend my love. And it was like this warm feeling to know that Rattle community was all meeting up, and everything. And we were able to eat dinner, and it felt kind of like, what are the kids doing, right now while they're off on their own. So it was.
You would have seen the Rattle brand, the Rattle community brand. This sense of community and support. The other thing is that folks brought poems that had been workshopped on the Rattlecast prompt Facebook page. And it was great to see next drafts of things that folks had shared previously and asked for feedback on. It was really good to get a second take at some of those poems.
That's wonderful. And I think, being part of a community, especially ours, because it's the best, is so important. And I think really does help foster, I want to write good poems because I want everyone to enjoy them and get to, be able to propel myself to become a better and better poet through that sense of sharing the poems with everyone. Like if we just keep our poems to ourselves, we're not really as motivated, I think, to continually improve. So that's great. And we thank you again so much for being our community host and hosting that. And of course, to Lexi Pell for being the first ever co-host. So, and you will be doing that again, thankfully, for us at the last Sunday of February, which is a date I do not have memorized, but I know exists.
It is coming, and my guest host will be Erica Reed.
Oh,
Wonderful.
That's great. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you.
I know all the best people through Rattle.
Yes, we were
We
aware.
definitely do, yeah.
Yes, we were. All right. Well, do you want to share your prompt poem from this week for us too?
I sure do. It tests the limits of a prompt poem and sort of like the question that I asked the community. And I'm not sure if folks can be objective because of the emotional content of it as to whether it's a political, whether it is a poem on top of being political or if it's just political. So it'll be interesting what the Rattlecast community thinks of that.
Well, I think it's a
question.
poem. Spoiler alert. Go ahead.
Okay.
Okay.
I find a bullet where it didn't belong. And the epigraph is from Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. You ask us for peace, we get shot in the face. It happened again. A masked man loses a bullet in another man's head. It's so careless to misplace something so small. It contains 2 Americas inside. You don't need to read this to know how it turns out. The bullet will never be found. We all know where it is. I discovered a shard embedded in my grandson, who won't go upstairs to the bathroom alone. A classmate was taken from school by a man in olive drabs wearing a mask. I pick another fragment, the shape of a boy in a blue bunny hat, from my arm. A third I found in comments under a YouTube vid. The fucker had it coming, it said. He meant the head. The blood of a man stains the icy streets of another U.S. city. On TV, a man in military dress greens, whose sidearms sheathed in spit-shined leather holster, says the bullet won't be missed.
Yeah, a powerful poem there, Dick.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I think, it definitely transcends, it can be so tempting to unleash a political rant right now, but that is definitely a poem. It definitely goes somewhere and makes us, gives us a way to help process, I think. So thank you for writing it.
Well, thank you. And the prompt gave me a way in. That's the sort of the secret sauce is that, we're all sort of like ruminating about these things, but it's responding to the prompt that helped make it a poem.
Oh, well, thanks, Dick. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks, Dick.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.
And now, of course, we go to Christiana.
We do. Okay.
Which we're very excited about. Sorry, Christiana.
Thank you. I'd asked Katie when she told me that my poem was selected if I could go a little earlier tonight because I have another writing group. We're having our evening of Christmas swapping gifts tonight. So it's going to be a really late writing night tonight. But the poem I have today is No Excuse, and it's in blank verse. You shouldn't have to say out loud that gum tucked on the underside of town statues isn't meant for your mouth. But gum stuck there, eye level with the girl in the green coat, called to her. Who had left the sticky pink? A teenager like her older brother on his way to his first kiss? A classmate saving the glob for after the dentist? A man on his way to his new desk job brushing old cat hair off his suit jacket before shoving the wad there in the gap? She couldn't know. But when Mom turned her back, nimble fingers unstuck the gum, popped it in her mouth for a quick warm-up chew, then glued her art, a SpongeBob family, there on the front of the just-signed doctor's note to the orange lamppost near the school door.
Well, Christiana, I have to say, I love how this poem makes me grateful for just how curious we can become as poets, and wondering where gum came from, I think, is a great illustration of that. And curiosity is just always interesting, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And one thing with this poem is usually I write either historical fiction where I'm setting myself into an actual character's shoes, or I'll write something that is true. And this one I completely made up. So that was a new thing for me.
That's exciting. I've been on that kick myself lately too, which is unusual for me too. That's funny. We're often on the same wavelength, it seems like. Yeah. Well, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Christiana. It's Christiana Doucette with No Excuse.
Great.
And next, let's go to Deborah Katai.
Thank you. This is a story that's true.
Okay.
It's called My First Boyfriend Gave Me This Jeweled Poodle Pin. Never mind that we were in third grade and he stole it from his little sister. Body of pearl discs or plastic, stacked askew, a tiny ruby, more likely a garnet or dark red glass for an eye. I don't remember ever pinning the poodle to a blouse or sweater. It runs off leash, disappears for a time, then nips at my heels at odd ages, dogging me, jogging my brain, digging up old treasures, my heart's scraps. By the old rule of thumb, it is now nearly 400 in dog years, way too old to learn new tricks, but still I say, sit, stay, rub its golden ears, and tuck it away for someone, me, you, to discover it a dog's age from now and ponder its pedigree.
No, that's great. Yeah, that's a fun poem.
Yeah, Deborah, I really enjoyed this, and this definitely stood out as one of the most unusual objects discussed, which is exciting to me. And this is why this really gets at the heart of why I'm really sentimental about objects, because I look at something and I see that story, and I love that this, you told us it was true. So in third grade, you were actually given this poem, and that's amazing. Like, I just love picturing that.
And I just recently reconnected with my former classmate and sent him the poem.
Oh, you did! That couldn't make me happier. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Oh, I love that story. What did they have to say about it?
I think they were fondly silent.
Well, thanks so much for writing. I really enjoyed reading it. I have to say, you're an overachiever, because this is one of 2 poems submitted. So thank you so much, Deborah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Deborah. Yeah, that was Deborah Katai with My First Boyfriend Gave Me This Jeweled Poodle Pen. Yeah, that's a great item. Let's go next to Lynn Hess.
Yes, so.
Hi, Lynn.
Hi.
Yeah, great to see you.
My poem, I'm very thrilled to be here and very thankful to Katie for the invite. My poem is 100% true. I was very, from fiction to truth. My father was a physician, and I was very, very close to him. And the poem is My Father's Pen. A metal fountain pen rests on my desk. Some scratches indicate it isn't new. I press the little dents along its barrel, the tooth marks penetrating through the dimming silver of its old veneer. I love this pen. Although he is long gone, I touch it and I feel my father near. I see him now, prescription pad in hand, scrawling notes he hopes will soon restore solace to the patients in his care, trusting him to bless them with the cure. What irony that none will ever think this ordinary household tool he glides is fetching lifelines with its buttery ink. I see my father deep in concentration, twiddling his pen between his fingers, an action unimportant and unconscious, and yet Its small significance still lingers robustly in my thoughts and reverie, like music when the symphony is over, playing on in timeless memory. My father's fountain pen rests on my desk. I slowly slide my thumb across its side, lingering a moment on each blemish. Time has morphed to comeliness I prize. And I marvel how an object hardly noticed, an entity I couldn't care about, can be the keepsake I can't be without. That's it.
Lynn, I
Thank
really
you.
enjoy this so much, and just like the celebration of what seems like a mundane thing at the time and then becomes something that you love. And I particularly
Thank
love the
you.
moment when you're talking about the blemish on the pen, and I feel like I've held that pen even though obviously I have not. So
Well, it's all true. I have the pen and didn't expect that pen would be what I would treasure so much, but I do.
Aw, that's very sweet. Thanks so much
Thanks,
for sharing
Lynn.
that, Lynn.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you very much.
thanks.
That was Lynn Hess with My Father's Pen. Next, let's go to Terry Jude Miller. This is a fun prompt because I get to see, all the different, items people pick. It's a really fun thing.
We're
It's
learning
like,
about
yeah,
people too.
yeah.
It is really. And Terry did something interesting, of course, with this poem too. Hi, Terry.
I am so excited to be invited, and I was excited to hear Liz mention E. E. Cummings because my poem is about E. E. Cummings. In 2015, I was in Boston and I went in search of his grave because he's one of my favorite poets, and I was very, very interested in his poems because they were poems you had to feel instead of understand. Well, I went to the graveyard, couldn't find his grave, searched all over, could not find it. So I stopped to rest and I looked down at a lake where there were ducks, where there shouldn't be ducks because it was winter. And then I started to leave, and a cardinal flew in front of me. And it startled me, and I looked at him, and then, well, okay, so I'm gonna start walking again, and he flies in front of me again. And he keeps doing this until I get to a certain spot that's very shady, and he's laying on he's standing on a branch, and he's looking at me, and he's looking down, and he's looking at me, and he's looking down, and I look down, and there's Cummings' grave.
Oh, wow. That's a great story. Terry.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I timed it. Now the poem is very, very short. Visitation. On the lake, down from Cummings' grave, are ducks who have forgotten they are ducks. This far north, this late in winter, painted in daylight, written in night. Time reorganized, spoons in the fork cubby, a washcloth in the fridge, a dictionary released from solitary. Nothing is where it should be, sings the robin above the grave marker. And isn't it wonderful?
Yeah. Well, a cool poem and cool story, Terry.
Yeah.
I enjoyed
Thank
them
you.
both.
Thank
Yeah,
you
nice
so
to
much
see
for the
you.
invitation.
Thanks, Terry.
Yeah, it was great to see you, Terry. Yeah, that was Terry Jude Miller with Visitation. Terry's got a poem in the upcoming issue of Rattle too. Let's see. Let's go next to Carla Schwartz.
Hi.
Hey, Carla.
Hey, Carla. Great to see you.
Great to be here. It's a wonderful night, especially because I actually checked the no box, so I was really surprised.
Oh, whoops.
I got
My
invited.
first error. Sorry, Carla. I lived in horror of accidentally inviting somebody to click no, and it's already happened. So we got that out of the way.
Yeah, it wasn't
It
so
worked
bad.
out, though. I
Yeah.
feel like I coerced you to be here, though.
Exactly. I feel doubly honored that you invited me.
I overruled. Well, I'm excited because you have a haiku for us.
Yes, I do. So very, very short. And I guess I'll just read it. And if you wanted to talk about it
You
afterward,
can
I
read
will.
it twice, Carla.
Okay, here we go. Here we go. Misplaced continuity, slipping on ice, discovering a fracture. Misplaced continuity, slipping on ice, discovering a fracture.
Yeah,
And
very
that
good
is
haiku
it.
there.
Yeah, it is very much. I definitely took some time slipping around on this one and read this. I've read this one more than any other submission so far. I can say that because I keep reading. And then I love the contrast too of thinking about, the fracture, whether the fracture is on ice or a bone, or really both, and how usually if you break something like that, something else is broken too. I started thinking about that and I found it really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was thinking about the continuity, misplacing the continuity between time and space because, suddenly there's a spatial thing that's happening because of the slipping. But then there's also a time thing that happens because of this fracture. And then there's the continuity of the bone is another issue. So
a
I
whole
thought
lot
all
of
of
meat
these
for
things.
8 words.
It is.
Exactly. So I really appreciate your liking this haiku and thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for coming and sharing it against your will, Carla. Thank
Twist
you.
my arm.
Oh no.
Thanks,
Carla.
Yep.
Yeah, it was Carla Schwartz with a haiku. Let's see. Next, we'll go to Veronica Tucker.
Great. Hi, thanks. I'm Veronica Tucker, and I practice emergency medicine and addiction medicine. This poem is set in a hospital break room.
Oh, very cool.
It's called Lost and Found. Okay. The wedding ring in the freezer, nestled between peas and a bag of someone's breast milk, dated and labeled in careful blue ink. The night janitor found it when he emptied the break room on his rounds, his hands still shaking from the methadone clinic, 3 months clean, learning to notice small things again. He held it under the fluorescent hum, turned it in his palm like a promise or a question, the gold still cold enough to burn. He could have pocketed it, but instead he wrote a note on the whiteboard. Ring in freezer, see Tom. All week he wondered who would claim it, what panic made them hide it there among the frozen things. When she came on Friday, crying, saying thank you, he only nodded, said he was glad to help. Didn't tell her how he understood the impulse to put precious things in cold storage to preserve them from your own hands.
Well, Veronica, thanks for writing this. I was really taken with the whole story, but I particularly the way you ended it, I thought was like very restrained, but very impactful at the same time. So I thought it was really excellent.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's great to get to see you because you submit. I think we could say you're a prolific poet. You write a bunch, and so it's really wonderful to get to see you. So thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Veronica. Yeah, it's Veronica Tucker with Lost and Found. Let's go next to Laura Berg.
Hello.
Hi, Laura.
Hey, Laura, good to see you.
Also enjoyed that E.E. Cummings evocation.
Yeah.
That was a pleasure. I test ran this last night with Dick, so
Nice.
here is this. Okay. All right. Telling. My sepia people, unsmiling in a tight, dark tie, Grandpa. High-collared in white, Grandma. Dad, a lad stuffed into frills. Newly discovered, the closest I've got. A first cousin once removed asks to see this photo. I rummage, but misplaced it. Sorry. It's okay, she sighs and tells a story I hadn't heard. Just before the war, her grandpa went to Poland to warn our family run. But they trusted where they were, sent only my dad to America to keep that fiery youth from trouble. And this is where misplacement starts to agitate me, not of the photo, keys, or glasses, but this blatant misplacement of trust. I fill vials with trust, beakers, vats, seal them, tell no one.
Well, I was really struck by how you chose to enter this poem with my sepia people. I thought that was absolutely fascinating. I mean, that is how, when we look at old photos, especially for me, when I see, these old pictures of family members that, died before I was born, they're my sepia people. They're like within me. But I thought that was such a brilliant way to refer to them and to start the poem off. So
you, Katie.
Thanks, Laura. Great to see you.
Yeah, thanks, Laura.
Go over to YouTube.
And that was Laura Berg with Telling. Next, let's go to Kimberly Gibson Tran.
Good evening.
Hey, Kimberly, great
Nice
to see you. Yeah.
So you have a Zoolander poem. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I know, but maybe I'll try harder.
Maybe that's the prompt. No.
Well, that's one way to get me to show up. But yeah, I'm glad I could make it tonight because work is canceled because can't leave the house. It's super icy outside. So enjoying some poetry. And this poem went in kind of a bizarre direction. I realize now, after everyone's been talking and reading, that I didn't actually name the object in the poem. Some people, if they know what I'm referring to, may know. I don't know, if I revise this, I may work it in there a little bit better. But it is a specific object I have in mind, and it's a true thing. Okay. Obeyed with red velvet cake. In my pink robe, the morning is threatening to never rise past the gray slate. Dust of snow rain ices the driveways and sidewalk bends. Oh, for a rich vermilion, thickened by high-rise smog, the bright eyes of cars that flicker as they go dark, and the arc of our burning star burnishing the retinal screen. I settle for this off-white, this tart cream crusted on the bloody sponge I drudged from the freezer and started to massacre as soon as my husband left for work. Will he notice the box missing from where it was supposed to be? Ruby-tongued, I read about a surgeon who was murderously negligent. I picture his auburn-haired colleague, Dr. Kirby, gaping open-mouthed under mask at the foreign body he dragged, Kelly clamped, from a patient's sewed-up back. There are things I wish unhappened, days I can't unpack. But look, just now a blinding flash, scattered sparks. The light lands on a plump little sparrow, forging tracks across the yard.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I'll say
I did not know what the object was, but I enjoyed trying to guess. So are you going to tell us, or?
I will. I don't think it's clear in the poem. It was a surgical sponge left inside of a patient. And this is the famous Dr. Death, about whom documentaries have been made. And also, like, I pass by hospitals in which he used to practice all the time in Plano, Texas.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to say, can you scroll down in the poem? Because I can't see the line that I want to compliment. But I really love that there are things I wish unhappened, days I can't unpack. It's so plain speaking, but really impactful. Like, that was one of those lines that really hit me when I read it. So thanks. It's definitely different, I think, from a lot of the poems we've seen you share on the prop lines, which had me intrigued also. So thanks for writing it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Kimberly.
Thanks, Kimberly. Bye.
Night.
Yeah, it was Kimberly Gibson Tran with Obeyed with Red Velvet Cake.
The dark side of red velvet. Yeah, great.
Yeah, that's a little creepy. Okay, and Brian O'Sullivan is next.
With the surgery theme, then.
Yeah, we are continuing on, Brian. So I was intrigued too with your title because it also made me think about Stephen Cersei, I believe it is, wrote an article for the New Verse Review, or an essay about not liking self-referential poetry in general. And I disagree with him, and I posted like this long comment. I mean, I'm glad that he wrote it because I think we need more things and more actual opinions in poetry, even if it's what I disagree with. But so I was intrigued to see your take on it.
Yeah, I saw that too. So that was kind of back. Okay, this is the longest title I've ever written, I think. A poem in which I stubbornly resist the advice that poems should be less self-reflexive. You never want to be the hero of your own poem, and An academic poet leading a Zoom workshop said on Sunday, a poem errant tilted at the broken windmill of my brain. I don't think there are academic poets anymore, Billy Collins said on the Rattlecast on Monday. On my wall, PhD hummed in minor key. An Ars Poetica is a poem looking up its own arse. So let's talk about my colon. Spent a year looking up my ass after they found a tumor almost blocking the way. They stole your sigmoid, the balding, scruffy CT tech, mon semblable, mon frère, asked me. My eyebrow did a Spock. So welcome to it. Yeah, the sigmoid colon is a spare part. Looking at my CT chart, the tech found a busted carburetor, a dog-eared one art, and my gym card. The wheelchair guy said, they lied to me. They said to bring a bariatric chair. You're big, yeah, but you're not that big. You were my new best friend, I told him. He told me how to hold an IV pole, and we tore down corridors like a minotaur. On a procrustean bed and too much gabapentin, I conducted the orchestra of the departed patients. I'm thinking about this on our broken rocker at 4:32 a.m. I finally go to bed. Jen stirs. It's nice to wake up and find you here. Grace walks between us and flaps her tail in my face. Classier poets get light bulbs over their heads. I get fur face. Nice to be found.
Aww. Yeah, that's funny and sweet, Brian.
Yeah,
both equal
really
measure.
is.
Yeah,
I'm amazed at how much ground you covered in that poem. I have to say, I mean, my God. Yeah.
Well, I was sort of the missing object myself, so it's around.
I think we need a Minotaur picture also. I mean, I have one in my head, but that's not enough. That's great. Well, thanks for sharing that, Brian.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, it's Brian O'Sullivan with a poem in which I stubbornly resist the advice that poems should be less self-reflexive. All right. Next, let's go
Is Chelsea the last? Or I just want to...
I do.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Chelsea McGlynn is up next. Last, but certainly not least.
Hi, Chelsea.
Hey, Chelsea.
So, as most of us we had a big snowstorm here, and we prepped by going to the library. So that's where
Nice.
my poem came from. Breadcrumb Trail. After our trip to the library, my daughter asks what I'm reading. I explain it's a book about creativity and motherhood. How do we hold both the artist and the mother in each hand without letting either disappear? She is confused. But everyone knows you can be both. Why would you read about that? There are crumbs between the pages. I imagine another mother hunched over the book, pecking at the edges of the Pop-Tart her daughter had begged for, then refused to eat. I've always hated Pop-Tart edges. In the original tale, it is the mother, not stepmother, that abandons Hansel and Gretel in the forest. The pages disappear, or the crumbs disappear by page 10.
Well, I love the pop-up apparent simplicity of that. And I was talking to Tim last night, like right before I read your poem, I was like, the part of my brain that is most not congruent with writing poetry is the mom part of my brain, and how it's really hard to go back and forth between the two. So the secret is a Pop-Tart, apparently.
Yeah.
And of course is the irony of her telling me, like, that's dumb. Why would you read a book about that? While interrupting me multiple times while I'm trying to write the poem.
Yeah, that could be Lizzie.
Yeah,
that is,
definitely.
thanks. And also a shout out to you because you went on the Rattlecast Prompts Facebook group and posted this nice tutorial for people on how to share their screen for the community readings, which I thought was really sweet. So thanks for doing that. As I have to make a confession. I learned how to do that from Dick Westheimer like 4 years ago or something. I didn't know how to do that. He showed me how to do that. So now you're teaching everyone. So thank you very much, and great to see you. And thanks for this great poem.
Yeah, thanks so much, Chelsea. That was Chelsea McGlynn with a Breadcrumb Trail. And that's going to wrap up the invited prompt lines for tonight.
Those are wonderful poems, and they really come to life getting to hear everyone share them and read them so wonderfully. I mean, the variety is just immense, and I love getting to be able to share that with people what I get to read more.
Yeah, definitely. Great variety. And you did a great job of getting the timing right because we're right at the 2-hour mark.
Thank
so
you.
look at that.
I felt pretty proud secretly.
Yeah.
We'll
It's
get
hard
to see the children.
We will.
Yeah.
All right. So let's close it out with some haiku. Katie, what did you do for this week's haiku?
Well, I realized that most people are suffering under the effects of the storm, but our situation here is that everyone really over-prepared, which I think is a good thing, better than under-preparing. Still, it was funny today because, I went out and it was like I was doing something brave, that there's no ice anywhere, but everyone's holed up inside. So this is my haiku. Sunny day, supposed to snow inside.
That's great. Yeah, it is. It was very strange for me, having all the
actual
the
storm.
warnings and stuff, and then from Western New York to the mountains of California to it's a little chilly.
I felt like a renegade when I went out.
Yeah, it was funny. So I went with the same place with my haiku this week, and I went with this one: winter weather watch or not.
That's fun.
That is the haiku for this week: winter weather watch or not. Okay. And that's going to wrap up the show for this week. Now, Katie, what is the prompt for next week?
All right. Well, next week, we are going to write a poem that explores how one of the cognitive biases has shaped your life. So cognitive bias specific list. I mean, it's a lot. I looked at the Wikipedia page to make sure we wouldn't all be writing about the same 3 cognitive. I mean, I would be pretty surprised if it turned out there were 3. But I think it will give us a chance to think about our own psychology, how we interact with the world around us, and the lens with which we're seeing things. So I think it'll be fun. Always interested in a little psychology. Got to pull out that psychology minor from time to time.
It's one of the most important things to know, though, all the different cognitive biases, because nobody's immune. You can't smart your way out of it.
I also selfishly am hoping to learn about some obscure biases that are really impacting my own life. So thanks for the help, guys.
All right, well, looking forward to that.
All right.
Okay, so that is your prompt for this week. Write a poem that explores how one of the cognitive biases has shaped your life. And a reminder, if you want to share it on the prompt lines, you have to submit it in this little window. It's going to reopen sometime Sunday afternoon-ish, late afternoon maybe. You'll have the evening of Sunday to submit your poems in order to get them considered for joining on the invited prompt lines next week, because it just happens to be the worst day to fall on.
Which, so to be clear, it is not a mistake that you cannot submit this poem right now.
Exactly. You can't submit it till Sunday at late afternoon.
Yes.
And then thereafter, you can submit the entire month of February.
It'll be a whole new world.
Which is 28 days, so we have the same problem next month. But that's
a whole
another
can of days.
So anyway, that is what we're going to do next week. Looking forward to all the submissions here. And of course, Katie's going to read through and pick the prompt poem of the month as well. So looking forward to that.
I also want to just say a really quick note that if you're not invited to read, it doesn't mean that you're not going to win necessarily. There are different considerations at play and everything. It's not just that. So don't feel like, oh, I wasn't invited, so I definitely didn't. That's not necessarily true.
Yeah, for sure. You're trying to get different people every week.
Yeah, and plus I'm a poker player, so who knows?
There you go. It's just keep everybody on their toes. Yeah. All right. So anyway, after all that, next week's guest is going to be Rena P. Espaillat. We just love Rena. She just had her 94th birthday last week. And she has a new book out to celebrate, for instance. And Rena is one of the greatest living formal poets, I think, one of my favorite poets to read. She was a guest back on Rattlecast, I don't know, around 100. And it's really excited to have her on again. So looking forward to that, and looking forward to reading her new book, for instance. That's next week. Rattlecast number 328 with Rena P. Espaillat. And your prompt, write a poem that explores how one of the cognitive biases has shaped your life. That's going to be the Rattlecast 328, Monday, February 2nd, the regular time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Hope to see you there. Hope you have a great week. In the meantime, we'll talk to you later. Goodbye.
Good night.